chairs.
Yes.
We never get any closer, do we?
I don't want to. This is close enough. Thank you.
As long as I'm my
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can everybody hear me? Good evening. It's now, well, I'm now just after 7:05. The first business of the evening, we're going to have to elect a chairman of the parish, or elect a chairman for this particular meeting. So, can we have nomination?
I nominate Councillor Gordon.
Just 1 second, just bear with me 1 second, please. I just want to clarify something. What's the first item? Right, so just to start proceedings then, we'll go to item number 1, to elect a chairman. Members, can I just ask, are you of the mind to elect a chairman for tonight, or are you of the mind to elect a chairman for the full year?
Still going to have to elect the chairman for tonight, because the council, well, we are out.
Yeah, go on then.
I think it's gone on long enough and we should be electing a chairman for the year.
I'll go on with that, yeah.
Go on, Chrissy.
Right, I did ask Drew last time he was here, and he said he will now have more time because they've set on 2 more staff, so he will be able to come. This is what he said. I expected him to be here tonight, but obviously something's happened, so I would prefer a chairman just for tonight.
Do we vote on that or do I propose that?
I'll tell you my personal opinion. I would suggest that, although it's not the ideal solution, I would suggest that we just elect a chairman for tonight. If you recall from the last meeting, we went to do a chairman for the year, and there was an objection to it because I think there wasn't enough members and the person wasn't here. My own personal opinion is I think we should again defer it. If that was the excuse last time, we should defer it this time.
Is there any person here who's willing to do it for the year?
Well, I would like to propose Stuart to be chairman.
I'd second that.
I don't want to do chairman for the year. I'm quite happy to take the role of vice chair and step in, but I don't want it for the year. Can I make a suggestion? I suggest that once again.
I'm sorry for butting in, Stuart. Part of my apologies. It looks. This is how I see it. We've had 4 attempts to elect a chairman unsuccessfully. It seems that majority of people here want Councillor Tommy to be chairman, although 3 out of 4 meetings he's not attended. I feel like we're just putting it off and waiting for Councillor Tommy to turn up, so the majority of you can put your hand up and put him in the chair position.
Are you making a proposal then that we elect a chairman for the year tonight?
I'd like everybody to be here.
Is that a proposal?
Well, it is a proposal. It is a proposal that we elect a chairman.
Right, if that's a proposal then, can I have a second then?
It's going to fall on deaf ears.
Right, so we've got a proposal that we will elect tonight a chair for the year and it's been seconded. So,
does everybody see the point that I'm trying to make?
Drew said
before we have a conversation between yourselves,
Sorry.
right?
Can
Would anybody
just
like to speak?
reiterate, please?
Just hang on a minute.
Drew
Just
did
hang on a
say
minute,
he
Christine.
would come.
Just hang on a minute, Christine. Right. There's a proposal and a seconder. Would anybody like to speak on the issue? Raise your hands. We'll pick first then. What would you like to say?
Well, we waited 4 weeks. Why not wait 5? Does it make any difference? We talked about someone to take the chair for 12 months, you know. So another week.
But mate, I don't disagree. What I'm trying to make is, people have tried to put Councillor Tommy forward to be chairman, and I was one that said, I think you should at least have decency to be here if you're going to be put forward. But irrespective of we change it tonight or not, you are going to vote Councillor Tommy as the chairman, so you might as well do it in his absence.
Right, you want to come back in, mate?
Only to say that, I mean, Councillor Tarman's not able to speak for himself. So we all know that he was called for work to go to the USA. And that's why he's been absent. He hasn't been absent to watch the football match. I presume that's not why he's absent tonight.
No,
Well, I can't can't say for certain, but we all know he's had a genuine reason. If he's not going to work in America, you know.
Right.
And he's also gave his word that he's not, that's finished with now. So I can't say why waiting another week is going to make any difference. As long as we've got a chairman for the meeting, that's all we need.
Right, so would anybody else like to speak then before we go to the vote? Go on, Christine.
Well, I agree with Nick. We've waited all this time. If we could give Drew another chance or two to turn up when he has specifically said that he will, because there's more staff now. And as Nick said, we know that his job has been keeping him away. It's not just stayed away because he can't be bothered. So, if we do vote to elect for the year, it will presumably, we can vote for Drew again, can we? But you can't accept because it's not here.
No,
So we might as well just vote for tonight.
I've checked up and we can elect somebody to be chairman in their absence as long as they've agreed to it.
Well, Drew
So-
did agree
So
to it.
that hurdle's over with. So can Jonathan, Miles and Darren can make it quick.
Yeah, I've got sort of answered the question anyway, because if no one else is willing to be chairman, then if we can't vote for Drew when he's not here, then we can't vote for a chairman. But if he's willing to do it, then
Yeah.
that's the answer to the question.
Alright, Miles next.
Similar thing as well.
Alright.
Can't vote nothing to it.
Alright then Darren.
Well, he wants to be chair, and most people want him to be chair, make him chair.
Right, so the proposal on the table is that we elect a chairman for the year. That was the proposal?
It was.
Right, so can we have a vote on the issue of whether we're going to elect a chair for the year tonight? All those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4,
To
5.
elect the chair for tonight, for
No,
the
sorry,
year.
no, right, we're voting on whether tonight we're going to elect a chair for the year. So can I have a show of hands again? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You know,
Vote for
vote
Drew.
to elect.
You can still vote for Drew.
Agree with that.
Pardon?
Are you including Councillor Army in that?
Yes.
No, what we're voting on now, at the very moment in time,
The question
We're
is, do
voting
we
on-
elect a chairman for the year? Not a person.
Yes, but my question is, has it got to be from someone here or someone who's up?
no, it can be anybody on the council. So,
Can you just make it clear to Nick that you have said we can vote Councillor Tarmy in his absence and he will be chair for the year?
right, we're not voting on that. Right, let's
Previously,
get back to the vote so we can make progress.
Yes,
The
but
vote, excuse me, right, the vote we're doing now, this very second, councillors are asked to vote whether we are going to use the process tonight to elect a chairman for the year. All those in favour, put your hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All those against?
You still haven't said if you include.
I agree with you, but it would be a hypocrite.
That's 3. I was 10. So I'm going to,
Well, which way are you voting?
I
again.
don't know, because it still hasn't made it clear whether
No,
it's including
we're not
Councillor
voting. Listen, Nick, we're not voting on that. That'll come up, your question will come apparent at the next vote.
He needs to know now to know which way to vote. Can you make it clear to
Right,
Nick?
I'm going to ask the vote once more and we're moving on. All those in favour of electing the chairman tonight?
Why?
I don't know why.
Christine, will you listen? And be quiet, please. All those in favour of voting to elect a chairman tonight for the year, please put your hands in the air quite clearly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 10 of us here too.
That's it.
So that's carried. Right. The next part is to elect a chairman. Can we have nominations for the chairman for the year, please?
Yeah, I nominate Councillor Tarmy.
Right. Is there a second for
Second.
that? Right. Anybody else?
Well, I'd like to nominate Councillor Thornton.
I'll second
I don't want to do it.
Just say it.
I'm going to decline.
No,
Yeah, just
He's
nominate.
doing it now.
I'm going to decline the chairman.
Very good.
Any more nominations
No.
for the position of chair for the year? Anybody like to speak on the issue to be voted upon? Yeah, go on then, Miles.
Just devil's advocate, worst case scenario, what he turns up and says people have misunderstood, he doesn't actually want to do it.
We just vote on the chairman next meeting, as simple as that.
Okay.
Right,
Okay.
nobody else wants to speak. All those in favour of Councillor Tarmy being chairman for the year, please put your hand up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm going to vote
It's a bit
6.
paradoxical.
So that's carried. That's carried. Right, we now have another position, is because Councillor Tarmy is not here, we now have to elect a chairman for tonight's meeting.
I nominate Stuart.
And any nominations for any councillor to chair the meeting tonight?
Stuart.
Is there a second?
Me.
All those in, anybody like to speak on the motion? All those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's carried.
10 minutes of my life, I can't get back.
Bear with me 1 second.
But we can't do number 2. Really?
Number 2 is in there, in here somewhere.
What's that, Jonathan?
Yeah, I did. That's all.
Number 2 is the later on in the agenda.
What?
That street drive.
Right, we'll move on to item 2, which is to receive the chairman's declaration of acceptance of office, which Councillor Tarmy can't do, however, he will do it at the next meeting if it turns up. Right, item number 3 is to receive apologies for absence. Right, the only person who's put their apologies in is Councillor J.T. Ireland, and Councillor Durham will be a bit late. All those in favour of accepting the apologies? In fact, we'll start again. Can I have a proposal that we accept the apologies? Thank you, Darren. The second by Clive. All those in favour? Thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just put your hands up again. Yeah, carried. Item 4 doesn't apply because every councillor so far has made a declaration. Right, item 5, to disclose members' DPI or personal interest in any items to be discussed. Have any got any declaration of interest to make?
Christie,
That's a contest.
12
Sorry?
12
Aye. 12 I for me.
12 or I?
Yeah.
Do I declare an interest if...
Right, just go on back to Miles. So, Miles, you're declaring a personal interest in 12I
Yeah.
printing costs. Is that personal or pecuniary?
Personal.
What's the other one? Yeah, it's mainly
If you're going to make money out of it,
Well,
now,
technically it's that one, isn't it?
When
no,
you make
because
a
you're not making
No,
money
personal.
personally.
have a conversation. When you make a declaration of interest, you have to state whether it's pecuniary or personal, because it has to be recorded.
Personal then.
Personal. Sorry, Christine, what were you saying?
Could I speak?
Yes, you can now.
Thank you. Do I have to declare an interest if I have asked for this item to go onto the agenda?
No.
Thank you.
However, you will be reimbursed.
In fact,
What though?
I've just been advised, Christine,
£14.
I've just been advised that it may be a good thing for you to declare a personal interest.
Oh, well then. Right.
Declare a personal interest.
Not spoken around in there anyway. Can't be across it.
I'll tell you, I'll speak to you. Anybody else already got any declaration of interest to make? No, thank you. Item 6, to identify any items which the press and public may be excluded.
Yes.
Just one second. Sorry, yes, Colin?
I propose that item 12C is put into confidential session because we're discussing contracts and costs.
Right, item C, the email about Lockwood Park. Right, I'm also going to suggest that goes into confidential session because I believe there's a potential legal issue on that between ourselves and RMBC. So when we come to that item, we can vote whether we're going to put it into confidential session. Yes, Christine?
Yes, 12I, I would like that to go into confidential because of discussing the costs.
Is it contractual?
No, but there's things that I would like to say in private.
Right, when we come to that item, then you're going to have to propose that it be put in
Okay.
confidential session. Give the
Okay.
reason, then we'll vote on it. Anybody else?
If I, sorry, I've, item 12M, I've got quite a few things on, and I'm not here for very long this evening. And if there's any possibility of moving it up the agenda, I appreciate it, unless anyone's got any objection to that.
Just bear with me 1 second. There was nothing controversial.
You're proposing it, I second it. May as well.
What time do you have to leave?
8:30.
We might be finished by then.
Carry on, that's fine, sure.
If you can remind me at 8 o'clock.
Yeah,
We'll make a
That's
decision
fine.
whether we'll bring that
Yeah.
forward.
sure, thank you.
So if we move on to item 7, to elect a vice chair of the council. Is there any nominations, this is for the year, are there any nominations for vice chair of the council?
I'll nominate myself, that's all right.
Sorry, I'd like to nominate Stuart.
Right, are there any seconders?
Anybody want to second that?
Right, anybody like to speak on the issue before we go to a vote? All those in favour? That's carried, thank you. Right, item 8, to confirm the minutes of the parish council meeting held on Wednesday, the 1st of June, they're in front of you. Any items or any issues on page 1? Any items on page 2?
Just come out to page 1, please.
Yeah, sorry, go back.
34 and 35:16. I think we've got a mix-up on dates there. Should be the 16th of May, I think. These are the minutes from the 1st of June, so that...
There's a typo. Yeah, the dates are wrong there, you're quite correct there, and the clerk's going to rectify them. So, anybody, anything else on page 1? On page 2?
I should have said that we accept the minutes with the exception of those 2 amendments to the amendments.
Is that a proposal?
Yeah.
Right, no proposal, seconded by Darren. All those in favour of accepting the minutes with the amendments? Just stick your hands up again, please. Right, carried. On to item number 10, and this is to adjourn the meeting to allow questions from members of the public. Can I just say before we do it, it's not this period is not for a discussion, this is just for members of the public to ask a specific question. And if we do it that way, if we get the specific question, we can probably give you a specific answer. Or if not, we give a written answer. Has any member of the public got a question that relates to the parish of Anston? Right, let's start at the back with Mr. Pearson. What's your question, please?
When am I going to get an answer to the last two questions I've asked in parish council meeting and a charity meeting about replacement of play equipment for children in this village?
Can you ask the question so we can write the question down?
I've just asked it.
And the question is?
The question is, this is the third time now that I've asked, when will the play equipment which has been removed through being obsolete or damaged be replaced?
Right, that's thank you. And we'll go Mr. Kavanagh next.
I just wondered if any councillors had been and seen flood victims at village. If anybody could give me an answer on that.
Right. The next, Mr. Jarvis.
Vacant plots on the allotments.
What's that round up? Mr. Lewis, just bear with 1 second. Did we vote to allow members
Yes.
outside the parish? Did we allow that, did we?
Yeah.
That's all right.
The only allowed it.
When we approve, on the annual meeting, when we approved the standing orders, they were not to include people.
Excuse me, you weren't here when we voted it in.
Can somebody refresh my memory?
I certainly was.
Before
And you
we
were
talk off the table, can somebody just refresh my memory? Did we vote in favour of allowing people from outside
Yes.
asking questions?
Yes.
Yes. Right, okay, so, sorry about that, Mr. Lewis. Can I have your question, please?
Yeah, it's considering
Sorry,
it's concerning 12K on the agenda about banning mountain bikes in Anston Stones Wood. What makes the council think they can ban mountain bikes in Anston Stones Wood? Because there's a proven usage of cycling there over many decades.
Chairman, it's for a question.
Yeah.
Well, that's a question.
I'll chair the meeting, thank you.
Oh,
Sorry, who's next? Mr.
Baker.
Yeah, it's a question regarding my previous question at the January meeting and my letter of the 30th of January. It's quite simple. Are you in a position to respond yet?
Could you refresh our memories?
You should have had it in the pack.
I'll come back.
I've got a copy if you don't.
Was anybody else? Yeah, can I have your question, please?
Me?
Yeah.
Because I've been away for a few weeks, I don't know when the applications have to be in for the next co-opted member of the Parish Council. What is the date of closure? Could be a third chance this time.
Right, so we'll come back to that in a minute. Right, so let's go back to Mr. Pearson. The question was, when are we going to replace the play equipment on the recreation ground? Is that a question?
Yeah, that's right.
The answer to that at the moment is, at this moment in time, there are no plans in place to replace the equipment on the recreation ground.
Why is that?
That's the answer to your question. It hasn't been discussed at the council, simple as that.
So this council's got a surplus of money and it's refusing to release it.
No, I didn't say
It's
anything.
refusing to release it or even discuss it.
I'm speaking, please.
And children in this village are going without equipment because you all think you're going to spend this money somewhere else.
Right, I'm speaking. So you have a choice, Mr. Pearson.
What's my
When I'm
choice?
speaking, I'll ask you to be quiet, please, while I'm speaking. If you want to continue to talk over me, I'll ask you to leave.
And I'll tell you I'm not.
Right, and that's not a problem, because I'll just suspend the meeting. I don't want this meeting to be adversarial. So, I've just replied to your question. It's not being discussed by this council, so we haven't refused in any shape or form to replace the...
Right, well,
It's just not, sorry, it's just not come on the meeting.
now,
It's
wait a
not
minute
on the
here.
agenda.
Wait a minute here.
We are not.
At the last meeting, Drew said we're going to put this on the
Mr.
agenda.
Pearson,
It has not come on the agenda again.
I'm
This is the
speaking,
third
Mr.
time.
Pearson.
This is the first time I've had to ask the same
I'm just
question.
giving an answer. Right, Mr. Pearson.
You haven't discussed it, that's what you're
If
saying.
you continue to talk over me while I'm talking,
You'll do
I'll ask
what?
you to leave the meeting.
Right, I'll tell you I'm not.
Right, and if you refuse to leave the meeting, I will suspend the meeting.
That's up to you, suspend it.
Right. Why are you being adversarial? Why are you making problems for this council?
Because we've had lessons off you, and the next thing is, right, I've asked this question 3 times.
Right. and if
3
Mr.
months it
Cavanagh-
took you to turn around and tell me that you haven't discussed
Right.
it.
I've just
Ridiculous.
Right, I'm not arguing no more with you.
You're a
So, Mr. Kavanagh, could you just ask your question again, please?
Why didn't you write it down?
I didn't know.
I asked if any members of council had approached any of our flood victims in the village to see whether or not they needed any help or to discuss the problems that they had.
Right. From my personal point of view, I'm not aware of any flood victims. Are you aware of any flood victims?
Try out Main Street.
Right.
Main Street, South Anston. We've
So-
got local shops that were flooded.
Unless the council is aware of supposed flood victims, we probably could discuss it or take some action. If we're not aware, there's nothing we can do.
Did no councillor know
So the
that
answer to your question is, no, we're not aware.
no, you're saying you're not aware, Stuart. I'm asking the council as a whole,
Well then, Jonathan.
not chairman.
I'm not...
I was quite aware of flooding down there on Sheffield Road because there's footage that people have taken of rapids going down the street and all the grit and dirt down at the bottom near the nailmaker's cottage. And I spoke with them in there, they weren't too badly hit, but it potentially could have been quite bad for a lot of people.
Can I just say, so I'm Christine?
Me?
Yeah.
Sandra.
Christine, speak to the chair.
I won't. Well, could I have the microphone, please,
No,
to make
speak
sure
through-
the member of the public can hear
I
me?
mean,
Speak through the chair, please.
Sandra did tell me that a relative of hers was flooded on Sykes Road because our NBC had not cleaned out the drains.
Right.
obviously, would you like me to enlighten you where
No,
problem
no,
lies?
you've asked a question. The
So you don't want any of the public to enlighten you where problem lies?
Right, you've asked a question.
Yes,
No,
I did.
You don't want any
The
else?
answer- just
You don't want...
let me speak. The answer is, we're not aware of an issue with flooding.
I've just brought it to your attention.
Well, thank you very much for bringing it to our attention.
But you don't want any help, you don't want any
Excuse me,
advice.
I'm speaking. The answer to your question is, while we have sympathy with anybody who's been flooded, the drainage system is actually a part of the RMBC's job. That's what they do. The parish council are not involved in drainage around the village.
I didn't ask you
Can
to be
I
involved
ask
in
you?
drainage.
Can I ask you to pass on from the council, if you wish, to people who know who've been affected, that if they've been flooded, that they're to contact RMBC direct with their concerns.
Well, it's a joke. Anywhere else that's been flooded, there are. Watched on news, councillors work first. To see
Right, can
victims.
we move
They
on
didn't have to
to...
approach that.
But you've been voting,
Right,
you've been
excuse
doing
me.
Yeah, if they'd been voting, you'd have been knocking on doors.
Right, Mr Cameron,
Can I-
moving on.
can I just-
No,
can I just
don't
speak?
say that,
Oh.
don't say that.
I suppose I have, and I've been out to visit people at Southampton.
Right, can we move on
Why?
to...
Well, you said that there.
I'm waiting to
Don't, Clive,
give
don't
opportunity to
start,
speak.
don't start talking to members of the public. Right, listen, councillors. The only way we're going to solve the problem with continual interference from members of the public is to talk to the chair and through the chair. If you engage with members of the public, you're encouraging the behaviour to carry on.
No, there's a lesson.
Right, Mr Jarvis, can I have your question again, please?
There's at least 4 and possibly 6 plots on the allotment that are spreading weeds on everybody else's allotments.
Sorry, the what side?
Spreading weeds on everybody else's allotments through their seeds. Now, I've been told by another parishioner
that they're all being taken, or there's a queue waiting for the allotments? Can you tell me why, please?
Again, I'm not aware that there was vacancies. Just one second. Is this at Southampton?
Yes, Southampton.
Yeah. Right. Right, I've just been informed that there's an actual waiting list for plots, and I think, I'm not sure, I think that the senior administrator is in the process of drawing up agreements with people. We'll pass your concerns on to the senior administrator who deals with empty plots, and hopefully we can remedy the process. Failing that, we'll pass it on to the allotments committee.
Can I just add a bit to that, Stuart?
Yeah, go on then.
Partly right, kind of right. They are actually, they've sent letters out of offers for the plots. Because I know somebody's asked me, it's in the agenda tonight, about a plot. They want one, but there's 5 or 6, I think there's 3 in Northampton, 6 in Southampton, just full of weeds, nobody's using them.
That's right.
And the letters have actually gone out to people who requested a plot. The problem is people aren't replying quick enough to the letter. So it's just dragging his feet a bit, but she is on the case.
She's in hand. Right, thanks for that. Go on, Miles, quickly.
I just asked Clark in reference to this we had last year with allotments, inheritance. In fact, we took stuff off of them. Is that included in new clauses? Is that what it's taken into account? Oh.
It's probably something you have to address to Siobhan direct.
But there is an issue on the an item on the agenda about the allotments, but I think Miles is right about that inheritance thing. That was that, but there is an item about joining the allotments National Society, I think, to help with that drafting of that scheme. So I think there's a decision to be taken on that later on in the meeting. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay,
12D.
Right, so let's move on to the next question from Mr. Sadler. Got your name right this time, I do apologise.
Thanks. I don't want to sound stroppy, but I'd just like to ask, what makes the council think they can ban cycling in Anston Stones? Because I assume you mean cycling, not just mountain bikes.
Right. Yeah,
as far as I'm aware, the usage is established, and
right.
you won't be able to.
Can I ask that we defer replying to your question? We are discussing this later in the meeting, and I'm quite sure that during that meeting, the reasons why cyclists shouldn't be in the woods may well come up.
Would I be allowed to answer?
Not at that stage you won't be, but if...
Well, could we put the question to members now then, so I can answer?
Not really, because we're going to be discussing it later. What I will do is, if we defer your question now, you'll have a discussion later, which obviously you're welcome to sit and listen to. If you still have any issues after that, if you have to contact myself or contact the office with the question, so to say, we'll endeavour to answer it.
Well, that's the question, so
Yeah,
can I get an answer from the council, whether it's now or at a later date?
Absolutely.
You will definitely get an answer either tonight to your question or at a later date.
Okay, that's great, thanks.
I think the reason I'm trying to defer it, I'm not trying to be obstinate, I'm quite sure that your question will be discussed tonight.
Okay.
But we'll see how it goes.
Thanks.
Mr. Baker, can I have your question, please?
Yeah, if you remember, some of you, I'm sure you will, I attended a meeting in January, and then I asked a question in public session, which was regarding financial regulation 10.2 and financial accountability. I was asked to put the question, because it was what you thought rather complex, in writing, which I did. I wrote you a 2-page letter.
That's right, you did
on 30th of January. I asked approximately 10 different questions in it, and I put quite a few views forward in that letter, and I just wondered if you were yet in a position to respond.
The straightforward answer at this very moment in time is no, we're not in a position to respond. However, what I will do is I will pass your question on to the chairman, and ask the chairman to see if he can formulate an answer, and via the clerk or the administrator to write back to you with replies to the points you raised in your letter.
Do councillors around the table think that sort of 6 months is sort of an acceptable time frame to...
Well, you know it's not.
Right, Darren.
I'm sorry, won't be sarcastic, won't be sarcastic back.
We discussed this on 6th of April, and we passed a resolution that the communication be received and that members mentioned in the communication respond on an individual basis. Matters relating to council procedures to be considered by the clerk. So we've already resolved that.
Right, so in effect, the council has resolved to receive your letter, should we say, without action. If you wish to raise the issue again at another meeting, please feel free.
No, I'm not raising it again, but there again it mentions corruption, and if you're not willing to respond or defend yourselves, then that's so be it.
Go on, Christine.
Is it acceptable to this council to treat members of the public in such a fashion? I think it's abysmal.
Right, it's been noted. Right, and the last question from... in fact, just go back to you, Mr. Baker. Do you want to speak to me afterwards? And I'll see if I can come up with anything.
Yeah.
I'll speak to you.
The question's been answered, why don't you ask us to talk to you later?
Excuse me, Mr. Pearson.
No, you don't see both ways.
Mr. Pearson, will you be quiet, please?
No.
The meeting's in... Sorry, you've had your chance to speak. Let other people speak.
Stephen's had his chance to speak, but you're willing to speak to us again, behind closed doors again, aren't you?
Mr. Pearson, what's happening is you are deliberately interrupting proceedings of this meeting.
No, I'm just pointing out injustices.
And you're still doing it now.
Pointing out injustices.
So, I think I've been quite reasonable in asking you not to speak. You've had your opportunity, so we're going to move on. Mrs. Vaughan, what was your question, please?
Because I've been away for a while, I'd like to know when the applications for being a member of this parish council need to be in for the co-optive too.
Right, just 1 second.
I can't hear you, Stuart.
No, I'm asking advice. That's why I'm speaking quietly.
Are we not allowed to hear that?
Well, it's not a secret. I'm trying to establish some facts before I speak.
I'd like to hear what you're saying.
Mrs. Moore, sorry, go on then.
I believe after the last co-option, we all agreed that anybody who's previously applied, their same application will roll over and don't have to apply again.
It was
on the last one.
There appears to be some confusion of whether people who applied last time are still eligible. And I think part of the consensus is the process starts again. The question I was asking, I'll come to you in a minute, the question I was asking is, the actual process of where members of the public are allowed to call an election for the first vacancy has now passed. The question I was asking was whether the co-option process is open until we actually discuss it at the meeting, and I believe it's open, yeah? I'm asking Clive,
as far as I'm aware, the second vacancy has not gone through our MDC after the current election. What we decided to do was wait and see what happened with that, and then co-opt 2 councillors at the same time. It seems that I mean, two attempts to do it. We might as well wait until there are 2 vacancies. We can still carry on as we have 13 councillors.
So the answer to your question, Mrs. Mullen, is the actual co-option period for you, if you wish to put your name forward, is still open. And can I say that any other previous person who's applied for co-option and wishes to be considered for co-option again, they will have to reapply through the parish council office. That way it makes it fair for everybody.
So I've got to reapply.
I would suggest it's best for you to reapply.
But when I asked was, how long have I got to reapply, and when do you want the applications in for? Because I didn't know about this as such.
I don't believe we haven't decided a date of when the co-option process at a council meeting will take place. I think we're discussing something like that later. I would suggest that if you wish to be considered for co-option, you apply possibly sooner rather than later. Yes, Christine?
Once again, is this a proper way to treat members of the public?
No.
The last time co-option came up, Mrs Vaughan was told her name would be kept on file. At the last meeting, I brought this up. I was ignored. I've been trying to contact Mrs Vaughan, who it transpires has been away on holiday. If she hadn't come back from holiday, she would have missed it. And I just do not think this is an acceptable way to treat members of the public.
Well, I believe that the previous clerk told Mrs Vaughan her name will be left on the papers, on the list, as it were.
Yeah.
I don't believe that's a proper process. I'm not aware of that.
Mrs Vaughan didn't know that. She's been waiting for this councillor to contact her.
Let me finish what I'm saying. I've spoken to several councillors, and none of them are aware of any list that people's names go on. That's why I've just made the announcement that people, the clerk said it, not the councillors. That's why I've just said and stated that anybody who wishes to be considered for co-option should apply again. That way, it's a fair system for everybody and nobody will be left out of the process.
Well, in future, may I suggest that you don't tell members of the public their name will be kept on the list?
I agree with you. It wasn't the council that made that statement.
So we blame the absentee on it?
It was the previous clerk.
Okay.
Well, I didn't know we were questioning that.
Right, so that's the answer. It's open-ended.
Yeah.
So we're moving on. That's now the end of the public session. The council has now gone back into council session, and members of the public are not allowed to interfere in proceedings or speak during the meeting. Mr Pearson, if you continue...
I never even got my mouth then, don't you accuse me for something I haven't done.
Right,
I never said a word.
Don't be abusive to
I never said a word.
Don't point at me and don't be abusive.
I'm not pointing at you.
If it was Mr Kavanagh that just spoke, I apologise.
I suggest you
I'm
find out
trying to
who's
be
doing
fair.
what before you accuse people.
Right, I'm trying to be fair, but I'm not going to accept...
How's that fair accusing somebody what's not said up?
Right.
Could I speak?
I'm now suspending the meeting for
Could I
5 minutes.
speak?
Excuse me, I'm suspending the meeting for 5 minutes in order that Mr Pearson reflects on his behaviour.
May I suggest that the chair does not antagonise members of the public?
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you to suspending, so it doesn't matter what you say, Christine. We'll resume again in 5 minutes.